And I call the honourable member for Bowman.
Deputy Speaker, and you can understand that people in the gallery today would think that with a contribution like that from the Labor Party and the Speaker wearing the red jacket, that there's virtually nothing to talk about amongst pensioners and aged Australians at the moment of significant financial import, because we can talk about mindfulness and the contributions of volunteers. It's always a very safe topic, isn't it? And you can sort of point over in that direction and hope they don't notice the obvious. I mean, what is the obvious that brings us here today talking about financial pressures on senior Australians? Well, let's go through the very, very devastating chronology from the last 6 years. Number one, inventing a carbon tax and insisting that pensioners pay it. That's the history. Number two, bringing in unclaimed money bill so that pensioners who had their money in the bank account could be swept by the Labor Party and kept by the government without the seniors knowing. I bet that's not raised when you have your cups of tea and coffee with pensioners in your electorate. Absolutely not. And of course, the most grievous sin of all perpetrated on seniors. 6 years, as the member for Hughes pointed out, in such voluminous tone that even his own electorate in Hughes could hear it without the benefit of broadcasting, the member for Hughes was utterly clear. 6 years of uncontrolled spending, leading to what, Deputy Speaker? Leading to no interest bill each month, to us paying $1 billion every week in interest that should be paid to pensioners. The money that should be helping the most needy is paid mostly to foreign entities, 2/3 of which as the privilege of going into debt. That's right. We couldn't run the books. We never saw a good idea we couldn't fund in government, said the Labor Party, leaving us with $1 billion a week debt. Now, where do we find the $1 billion from if we don't take it from the age pension? Well, it's a Labor government that ran out of ideas. They simply refused to fund anything long-term and left it to the coalition to sort out the mess, as the member for Hughes points out. So let's rewrite a little bit of history here for a minute before I talk about pensions. Back in 2009, of course, we were all concerned about a GFC. What we did know at the time was there was plenty of money in the bank, thank you to John Howard. We had the 4 major banks all AAA rated and strong enough to resist the threats of a GFC. And lastly, we had strong exports in the form of mining. The 3 triple inoculation that would get us through a GFC. Now, I don't blame people at the end of 2008. In the panic of Lehman, saying maybe we need to tighten our belts and stimulate the economy. And the payments to pensioners that occurred late that year was supported by both sides. But as early as 2009, the TRIM modelling from Treasury showed something very embarrassing to the Labor Party. There would be no fall in GDP, we would not go behind, and we would not fall into deficit. So in early 2009, given the option, now realising there was going to be no GFC recession in Australia, what do? Keep spending. That's right. Not just for another quarter, not just for another year, but for 4 years of continuous spending. And then they wonder in the end, when after the US, Australia is the largest spender, why that is we are in debt now. The simple answer to seniors in this country is 6 years of uncontrolled spending puts us in this invidious situation where we have to look at ways to address social spending. Now, the age pension moving to $50 billion a year is an important issue. And this is a government that has watched on as 2 pension indexations are all based on CPI. And the third one this week will also be based on CPI. But I'd be lying if I didn't say there is concern amongst pensioners about whether we are simply switching from one indexation formula to the other. And that's why, intrinsically, I think all Australians out there would support the possibility that we have an adequacy review of the age pension every 3 years, that we take it out of the hands of the mob that can't run the economy and the mob that are trying to repair the economy, and we say independently, can we look at the level of indexation that is appropriate to make sure that the age pension keeps up with what we think is a basic expectation. So let's be honest, why do we discuss the age pension? Because like almost every other form of welfare, age pensioners have almost no other alternative to earn an income. They're at the age where they're living on their meagre savings and utterly reliant. And that's why, and I can see the member for the Labor Party on the other side who spent us into oblivion in the first place, we must find a way to examine the adequacy of these pension increases and make sure that they meet community expectation. That is where our minister is. That is why I think many social groups support where we're going. We can find a way that will raise pensions every year, twice a year, but we do it not because we want to, we do it because Labor spending has given us no option but to take these tough choices.